Well, good afternoon. My name is Donnie Jenkins, and I am your company's workplace chaplain with Corporate Chaplains of America. I hope the slide presentation was helpful to you, and so I hope that it makes a little bit more sense and understanding to what a chaplain, as your chaplain, what my responsibilities are and what I can do for you. Well, I wanted to share with you, because one of the things that's in the slide, it talks about the qualifications of a chaplain. So I want to tell you how I come into that and what my story is that qualifies me to be your chaplain. I have been in ministry for 28 years. I have worked in a non-ministry setting as well for over 20 years. 13 years ago, I was diagnosed with tongue cancer. Now, I had one of two of the top surgeons in the country that did my surgery, and he was unable to tell me, Mr. Jenkins, I don't know how you got cancer. That was pretty much what he said. And so with that, I had 8 chemo treatments and 36 radiation. Now the interesting thing is that I had a little bump on the bottom of my tongue, like a blister, and it was very sore, and I went and got it checked out and had a biopsy done. And while I was waiting for the biopsy that week, I was told that it would take several days to get the results back. I got a call the next day requesting that I come into the office just 2 days after the biopsy was done. The precursor to that is that week I had received a magazine in the mail. At that time, Lance Armstrong and Live Strong, the bracelets, was very popular. And on the cover of that business magazine that I received in the mail was just a picture of his arm with that yellow band around his wrist. And I turned to my wife and I said, I've got cancer. And she says, well, how do you know that you have cancer? It may not be. I said, and I held up the picture of the cover of the magazine, and I said, you see, this is just the Lord's way of kind of giving me a heads up. That way when I go in to see the doctor, it won't be such a blow. Well, sure enough, I walked into his office and he came in, sat straight down, looked at me and said, Mr. Jenkins, you've got cancer. And I said, I know. And he said, what do you mean you know? And so I told him what I just shared with you about receiving the magazine and how I felt that that was the Lord's way of giving me a heads up about what was to come. Well, I told you I went through 8 chemo treatments and 36 radiation treatments, and I am now cancer-free. So I am thankful. And just celebrated that 13th anniversary at the end of May of this year, so I'm thankful for that. Well, not only have I dealt with cancer, and I am a cancer survivor, my wife and I have also lost 3 children because of birth complications. And so we were wondering if, at that time we were in youth ministry. I shared with you that that was one of the areas of ministry that I've served in times past. And so we had come to the conclusion after our first one being a stillborn and the second being twins that miscarried, we had wondered if perhaps that our children was going to be the youth groups that we had. And we had settled into that to say, well, you know, maybe we just need to kind of be extra parents to some of the students that we're ministering to at this time. And so we were fine with that. We had kind of settled into that idea that this was going to be our children. Well, about a year later, my wife comes to me and she says, we knew that she had been pregnant. She was about 12 weeks. And she says, what shall we name our son? Because we'd been real hesitant to say anything about her being pregnant until 12 weeks, because typically if a lady makes it to 12 weeks in her pregnancy, then usually everything's going to be okay. And so I said, well, I don't know. And she said, well, how about the name Jonah? I said, Jonah? How does that, this was dumb on my part, but I said, how does that look on the marquee? Jonah Jenkins. How's that going to, I don't know why I went there, but anyway, I did. So anyway, she said, well, you think about it and you pray about it and you get back with me, which translation, guys, if you're married, you know what that means is that, unless you convince me otherwise, we'll probably be naming him Jonah. Well, anyway, so at that time, I was just my relationship with the Lord was just kind of casual. I wasn't as sold out to him. I wasn't as passionate about my relationship as I was, and that's 23 some years ago now. And so I looked in the Bible just to refresh myself on what the word Jonah meant. And Jonah meant dove. And if you know the story in the Bible, Jonah was on the joe a lot, and so was our son. And so then I looked up the word dove, and dove means peace. And so from that, this may seem kind of strange to you, but from that, I took that as kind of the Lord's nod that everything's going to be all right this time around. You're going to have that son. And sure enough, 23 years later, as I shared earlier, we have a son. He's living in Murfreesboro and graduated from MTSU with a sound audio engineer, sound engineer degree. So we've had that experience in life as well. And so not only have we been in ministry for 28 years, we've been married for 29 years. And so we've done a lot of life together. There's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But overall, we are very thankful for the relationship that we have with each other, for the relationship we have with the Lord. In fact, I began my journey of faith at age 11. Did I understand everything? No, obviously not. But I'm now 55 years old, so that journey is 44 years old. It's very interesting, though, is that I was sitting in church on the front pew of all things, and the last thing that I heard the pastor say that morning, because I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention, just to be honest, just between you and me, so let's just keep it to ourselves. I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to the message. But one thing he said that grabbed my attention is that if Jesus comes back to the earth today, would you be ready to go meet him? Would you be ready to go with him? And for whatever reason, that really got a hold of me. That did a number on me. But not so much that I would do anything about it in the church service. So I went home and went to my room while my folks were fixing lunch. And boy, there was just a gnawing on the inside. I mean, there was something going on inside of me that I'd never had happen before. Now, I don't know where you stand in your spiritual journey, so this may not make any sense at all. And so, but I'm just telling you what my experience has been. And so it literally felt like somebody, that sounded like a knocking on the door, didn't it? Well, nobody's at my door. That's what it felt like that morning. It literally felt like somebody was knocking on the inside of my life. And years later, when I began to study the Bible more, I came into a passage found in the last book of the Bible called Revelation, in the 3rd chapter, verse 20. And the letters are in red, and so that means Jesus spoke the words, the very words that are there. And this is what it says: I stand at the door and knock. If anyone opens that door, I will come in, and I will abide with them and they can abide with me. Well, I didn't know that verse as an 11-year-old child, but I knew the experience of that verse. And that's exactly what I did that day, is I opened the door of my life as only an 11-year-old could. Now, as I said, did I understand everything I was doing? Goodness, no, I didn't. But what I did know is that I didn't want to spend eternity separated from him, because, you know, there's a heaven, there's a hell, and so I didn't want to spend it in the bad place, as they used to say as a kid. I wanted to spend it in the good place with him in heaven. And so I knelt down beside my bed and I just said, Jesus, I know you can save me. Save me. And you know, 44 years later, I'm still walking that life. I'm still striving to live that life. But I'm also learning and growing and by studying the Bible. And so I want to thank you for your time. Again, I want to welcome you to the company. And I look forward to meeting you, and I look forward to having any kind of dialogue that we can have. And so if you need me, I am available. And just give me a call. And again, I look forward to meeting you. Have a great day.